right. Hey, welcome to the Run It Back podcast. I'm your host, Tony Hampton, and we got a very, very special a guest with us today in Phil Hopson. This is a interview that I've been really looking forward to doing. And when you think about Phil, there's a number of things you think about. Just recently inducted into the PIL Hall of Fame, as I understand it, just recently. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All conference 3 straight years in the Big Sky Conference, as well as a PIL Hall of Fame, Jefferson High School Hall of Fame, top 10 in the history of your program and for the Vandals in terms of games played, points scored, rebounds, field goal percentages, blocks, the whole 9 yards. So just welcome Phil to the program. Really excited about talking to you today.
Thank you, Tony. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, man.
Right on. So for those people who don't know it, we're both from Portland, Oregon. So, obviously I've been a huge fan of what Phil and he's accomplished in it through his hoop career. But one of the things I wanted to kind of start off by talking about that is kind of disappointing to me, right, is that when I kind of started doing my research and I'm looking at Jefferson High School, right? I'm talking about you got 6 players that were ranked in the top 100 in the country that played basketball at Jeff. 9 state championships. You had a Heisman Trophy winner in Terry Baker. He's also the only player in the history of college sports that won a Heisman and also played in the Final Four of a NCAA basketball championship with Oregon State. Woody Green, Mel Renfro, Aaron Miles, T. Hops, Ray Leary, yourself. Man, you guys really are the school of champions. Just disappointing for me as a general to actually admit that.
I am surprised that you are admitting it.
But when you start going through the documents, you go, man, this is really a real. So I'm really excited about not only getting a chance to talk to you, but also a little bit of the history of your experience of going to Jeff and the whole 9 yards. But let's kind of start off, Phil, from just what recently happened in terms of you being inducted into the PIL Hall of Fame, which is an incredible accomplishment. One of the best athletes to ever come out of the state of Oregon. That's what it means to me. From a basketball standpoint. So can you talk about what that meant to you before we start getting into the backdrop of your history? Let's kind of talk about what that meant to you.
Well, thank you, Tony. I appreciate what you're saying there. It meant a lot. It means a lot. It means that I accomplished a lot in high school. It means that I accomplished a lot after high school. But the main thing that I feel in my heart is that I feel like I was a good player, one of the best to come out during my time at Jefferson, at a PIL. I just didn't want to be left out at PIL Hall of Fame. I didn't want to be left out,
right?
Because I felt like I accomplished enough to be in, and it took about 40 years to get in. So so it took about 40 years to get in there, and it feels good to be there.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to you and what you accomplished in your career and that is an incredible accomplishment. It's surprising that it took 40 years, but it's best that you got in, right? Because obviously for me, I'm a little bit biased, right? But I consider you one of the best players that I've ever seen that come out of the state of Oregon, and one of the best players I ever played with. Even though I played with you way after you were playing college basketball, doing pro-am tournaments and that kind of thing, but have always been a huge fan. So congratulations on that achievement. When you think about kind of the beginning, right? From what I understand, your mom is from Mississippi, your pops was from Arkansas, so you came from the South. Like a lot of our families who are in Portland, Oregon, Northeast Portland, they came from the South and migrated out this way. And then you ended up living on Mississippi. Your mother's from Mississippi, right?
My mom was from, yes, exactly.
Yeah, you guys ended up living on the street in Mississippi. So kind of talk about what it was like for you growing up in Portland, during that time as a kid. Just kind of give us your view on that time.
Well, it was a pretty special time for us. in Portland, living on Mississippi Street.
Yeah.
Um, like you said, my mom migrated from Mississippi,
Yeah.
along with two of her sisters,
Uh-huh.
and her two sisters lived right across the street from us on Mississippi Street.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So my I grew up with all my cousins on that street on Mississippi Street. We played all sports. We raced out up and down the street. We had bike races and raided fruit trees in the summertime and all that kind of stuff. Man, we had a great time, and we were all family. And
Yeah.
even the kids that were not a part of our family felt like they were, because it was so many of us that were cousins. So we all felt like we were cousins.
Yeah.
So the Browns and the Duckets and the Andersons, and everybody felt like we were all cousins on that street. It
Yeah.
was great. It was
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah. That's incredible, man. And so,
Man.
yeah, and I can remember raiding a lot of trees growing up in the summertime.
Definitely.
I mean,
We knew where all the best fruit trees were. That's for sure.
yeah, thank God they weren't prosecuting young, 7, 8 year olds, 9 year olds, robbing
Yeah,
plum trees
man,
and all that.
man. Thank God for that.
Hey, but so growing up on Mississippi Street, right? I understand your pops was Mac Hopson, right?
That's right.
So Mac was an entrepreneur. He had his own janitorial service program
Hmm.
going on. So
Hmm.
obviously he had an entrepreneurial spirit, in terms of his career.
Hmm.
What was he a hooper? Was your
No,
mom a hooper?
man. I never seen my dad shoot a jumper in his life. In my life, I never seen him shoot a jump shot.
Yeah.
He never participated in sports. My dad actually dropped out of school
Okay.
in sixth grade to start working and helping his family, survive and make money.
Okay.
So he had a sixth grade education,
Uh huh.
but he was a very, very intelligent man.
Yeah.
He's a very intelligent man, and a family man. And he did everything he could to take care of his family.
Yeah.
So he worked hard, but he provided. He
Yeah.
provided. We never felt like we ever needed anything. We never, we didn't know that we didn't have a whole lot, but we didn't know that we didn't know what we didn't have. So
Right.
it was cool. It was real
Right.
good.
Right. 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 And what did it mean for you and your family? Because I think you got 6 brothers and sisters, right?
It was six of us all together, three boys and three girls. So I had
Yeah.
five siblings. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah.
what did it mean for you guys? Do you guys recognize that your dad was this, entrepreneurial, had his own business? As a kid, you just think, hey, mom and dad are going to work. It's no big
Yeah,
deal. But
that's
now
all.
looking,
That's all we knew, man. That's
yeah.
all we knew was that pops was working 16 hours a day. That's
Wow.
all. That's all
Wow.
we knew.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to the day he quit working, he worked. He would work a straight 8-hour shift job, come home and eat, and go back to work again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
doing his own entrepreneur company.
Uh-huh.
His janitorial company. So he worked hard, but yeah, yeah. And I really feel like, really going back, and as an adult, looking back on those days, and one of the things that he told me, before he passed away, was that don't use your whole life just working. Make sure that you get to know your kids. Make sure that you're there for your kids. Because
Right on.
he felt like he didn't spend enough time with us, with his
Uh-huh.
kids, because he was working all the time. But he did what he had to do at that time. But
Yeah.
he was like, man, make sure that you get an education. Make sure that you be able to provide for your kids. So you don't have to work as hard as I had to. Because working actually caused him to have a stroke. He
Right.
had a stroke at the age of 55 because he worked so hard.
Wow. Wow.
And then by 65 he was gone.
Uh-huh.
And it was like 2 months prior to his death is when he was, and he was telling me about how he missed out because he worked so hard.
Yeah. 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 That's
So,
that's incredible. And
yeah. Now
he
I never remember my dad, because and I don't fault him for it. I don't
uh-huh.
fault my family, because I know they, back in those days they had to do what they had to do. But
Hmm.
my dad never had the opportunity to come to any of my grade school activities.
Okay.
Anything that ever happened to me in grade school, or
Uh,
anything, sporting activity. If I got in trouble at school, it was always my mom. Never my dad. Never remember him ever coming to any of that kind of stuff.
right.
But
Right.
he was there as a provider. But yeah. But when I got to high school and started playing varsity ball, then he would come to the games and stuff, and
Yeah.
he'd always travel to Idaho and watch me play. Many times he came to
Oh,
the
so he
game.
would make that trip to Idaho.
Man, my mom, my dad, my brother Tony,
Yeah.
and my buddy Reggie Guyton.
Yeah.
come to Idaho to watch my games, all my games, you know.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep.
Wow.
Reggie Guyton would come jump in the car with my parents and my brother, and they come to our Big Sky tournament games, at Idaho,
Wow.
way back in the day. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow, man. I didn't know that. And we definitely
yeah,
gonna get into that discussion, man. But shout out to your pops, right? And
yeah,
we all have parents that were migrated from the South to Portland, and
yeah.
both my parents work, right? So you didn't get as much time, right, because they were out grinding, trying to provide for a living. But
Exactly,
definitely the
exactly,
example that he set in terms of work ethic, that skill is transferable into whether you're playing sports or you're
definitely,
starting your own business. So
definitely,
I'm sure you
definitely.
guys saw that, right, on a
Hmm.
daily basis.
Without a
So
doubt,
so
without
so
a
so
doubt.
kind kind of talk to me about um, how you got on this kind of hoop trail, right? I'm always curious of how people get involved and end up falling in love with this a sport that I'm so passionate about and love so much as well. How did
Hmm.
how did that? Do you remember the moment you kind of began to you know, really like or fall in love with the game of basketball?
Hmm.
Where because your dad didn't play, your mom didn't play, right?
My mom
So,
played.
oh, your mom
I didn't
played.
talk about my mom.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't, I didn't talk about my mom. My mom played ball. My
Oh, she
mom
was a
actually
hooper.
played
Okay, all
basketball
right.
in high school and at Mississippi Valley.
Mississippi
Mississippi
Valley
Miss,
College.
in college played at
Oh,
Mississippi
okay,
Valley.
okay,
My mom wasn't as good as my aunt.
okay.
My aunt actually was a real good hooper.
Uh
My
huh.
aunt who actually lives in Portland as well. But
Okay.
yeah, so that's where the athletic ability came from my mom's side.
Okay.
Because my mom hooped, my mom's sister hooped, and then she had like three brothers that also played.
Oh, okay. So it
So
goes way back.
it
Okay.
goes way back, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then yeah, and that's where like my dad, he was like 5'7".
Yeah.
I'm 6'6",
Yeah.
My dad was 5'7". But
Okay.
my mom's side was pretty tall. My mom had some, brothers that were like 6'4", 6'5",
Okay.
6'3".
That's
That's
where
where I got
that's
my
where
height from.
that's where that
Yeah,
disparity comes in between you and Tony in terms of height.
exactly.
You
Exactly.
got
My
that.
my yep, my brother Tony, he got my dad's side and I got my mom's side.
Yeah, right on for that. Right on for that. So
Yeah.
you got it kind of from your mom, and your family was athletic in terms of
Yep.
playing in the neighborhood is kind of where you began to
That's
fall
where
in
I
love.
kind of that's I guess that's where it first started. But I how you got big brothers. I just wanted to be like my big brother. When I was
Yeah.
like third grade, he was a sophomore in high school at that time, and that was the first time I went and watched him play a basketball game. He was playing JV at that time.
Okay.
And at Jefferson, and that was the first time I actually see him play in a real game. Other than that, I just played with him on the street on our hoop in front of the house.
Right.
Other than that, but when I went and watched him play, man, I immediately fell in love. I just wanted to be on
Yeah.
that Jefferson High School court like he
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
I just want to play varsity basketball eventually I wanted to play varsity basketball at Jefferson High School
Yeah.
because my brother did.
Yeah.
And then as the years went on, my when I was in the fifth grade, his senior year, they won the state championship.
Yeah.
And to me, man, I mean, they were all black team,
Uh-huh.
and they had a white coach.
Right.
And during this time back in the day, and obviously there was no other black teams around, all black teams,
Right.
and they was winning every game. They were blowing out teams, and they were fancy out there, doing all the passes, great passes and everything. To me, man, and they never would lose. To me, they was like the Harlem Globetrotters.
Right. Right.
They was like the Harlem. There's like the Portland Trail. There's like the Portland Harlem Globetrotters to me,
Yeah.
because they would never ever lose. They
Uh-huh.
would never lose games. Just like
Uh-huh.
the Harlem Globetrotters would never lose games, and they were all black, and they had
Right.
the fancy, big afros, and the fancy passes, and just like the Globetrotters, man. That's who they were to me.
Yeah.
And they, it's just a little story. They that year, their last game of the season, they played against Washington, who had a lot of talent, but they were young.
Yeah.
They had the Stoudemire's. I think Anthony Stoudemire was on the team,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
Greg, Gary Smith, who was really good. They had some really good players, but they were young, and they beat Jefferson last regular season game of the season. Man, I cried like a baby because I listened to the game on the radio. I listened to the game on the radio, and I'm crying like a baby. Oh, mom, they lost the game, man. They lost. I can't believe they lost. And they come, and then they come. Tony come to the house, and he
Yeah.
come with some of the players. Ray Leary, think Ray Leary was with them. Maybe Carl Bird was with them. And
Right.
they come to the house and they were laughing. They just cracking up, just laughing. I'm like, man, why you guys? I'm crying like a baby. I'm like, why you guys lose the game? Why are you laughing? You guys lost the game.
Right.
Like, man, we ain't worried about that. We getting ready to take the state championship. We ain't worried about that game. So they went on and took the state championship that year, though, man. But
Yeah.
I cried like a baby, man. It wasn't nothing to them, but man, it was devastating to me. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
devastating.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. You remember that
huh?
moment.
I remember that, man. I remember it like it was yesterday, man. That
Uh-huh.
was because it was one of the few games that I never went to the road games, but I went to all their home games. But
Okay.
I never really went to any of their road games. And
Right.
this was a road game, so I just had to listen to it on the radio. 'Cause all the games would be on the radio back in the day,
Yeah.
you know. So I listened to it on the radio, man. Man, I cried like a baby, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but that's kind of the way I kind of started liking the game.
Uh-huh.
And then one day in the fifth grade. No, I think it was fourth grade. Fourth grade when
Yeah.
this happened. A guy came into the school. Did you guys play? You played golden ball basketball, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
golden ball. This guy came to the school and was passing out applications for kids to sign up for golden ball basketball.
Yeah.
So this is the first time. This is the first time that I ever had the opportunity to play on the team and everything. So yeah, so that's where it kind of started playing golden ball basketball in the fourth grade. We played
Uh-huh.
at PCC when the old gym, the old PCC gym,
Yeah.
golden ball. But when I think back to that, one of the great things about the golden ball basketball
Uh-huh.
during Christmas season, during around this time of year, when school's getting ready to get out,
Mhm.
they would have the Far West Classic. The
Yeah.
Far West Classic would be going on,
Yep.
and they would give us tickets to the consolation games. Remember that?
Mhm.
They
I
get
remember.
tickets to the consolation games, so you get
Yeah.
to go to the games and watch college teams play.
Yeah.
Man, so now, man, I'm in the Coliseum watching all these college basketball teams, man. I mean, the band's playing and everything. It's loud, man. I see these dudes out, man, in layup drills. They out there, doing the fancy. Man, I'm like, man, this is what I really want to do, man. I want to play in the Far West Classic in
Right.
on the Memorial Coliseum court. This is what I want to do. 'Cause I had been to Blazer games before,
Right.
like 1,000, people there or whatever, the fans, like back in the day, you didn't get no fans at the Blazer. You can go
Right.
$5 ticket and sit on the court, back in the
Exactly.
day. So that
Exactly.
wasn't really exciting to me. But when I went to those college games, those college games at the Far West Classic, man, I mean,
Classic. Yeah.
man,
Classic.
oh
Yeah.
my God, man,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
in love at that point.
Yeah.
And
Classic.
as
Yeah.
I went on, and I didn't even know that, at the time, I didn't even know we was going to consolation games. I'm just watching college basketball. I
Right.
never went to any of the final games,
Right.
the finals until I got to high school.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I knew so I was just going to the regular season games.
Yeah.
The consolation games.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, it was just a thrill. It was packed in there. It would
Yeah.
be packed, and the bands are playing. And me see these big old dudes out there on the court, man. I'm like, man, this is what I want to do, man. I
Yeah.
want to be out there one day. So
Yeah, man.
as time went on, I got to high school, and then start going to some of the finals games. And seeing the real good teams.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, my junior year in high school was my senior year in high school at the Far West Classic. That was when Michigan State came. Michigan State with Magic Johnson,
Yep.
Greg Kelser,
Yep.
and all of them, and Indiana was in it with Mike Woodson and them.
Yeah.
Man, the Far West Classic was off the hook, man. And I was like, man, how can I get to the Far West Classic? Because Oregon or Oregon State wasn't recruiting me.
Right.
Neither one of them was good, and they would always be it was their tournament, obviously.
Uh-huh.
So they were always there, and I was like, man, if I can go to Oregon or Oregon State, I can play in this Far West Classic. I can
Every
be in
year.
this.
Every year.
Yeah, every year I can
Yeah.
be in it.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. I want to play in this Far West Classic. But but yeah, I wasn't getting no looks from them really. I got a couple letters, but I
Uh-huh.
wasn't really getting no strong looks from them.
We gonna
But
get in. We gonna get into all of that too, because
Yeah.
It's fascinating for me to hear you say that that was a goal, right?
Mhm.
To participate in the Far West Classic, because we've never had this discussion about,
Yeah.
what your goals were from a basketball standpoint. But now it starts to make sense to me, that even as a young kid, you were focused on this and you had lined it up, right? That the Far
Mhm.
West Classic is a goal. Because I remember the Far West. I mean, I was never really a college basketball guy. I like the
Mhm.
pros. So I was a
Mhm.
Walt Frazier, Earl the Pearl
Yeah.
Monroe,
Yep.
Phil Chenier, Jerry West, all
Yep.
Pete Maravich, all those boys.
Yep.
And I
Me
remember
too.
being at
Me too.
I remember being at the park one day, and this is when I was a little kid, and I might have been talking to James Perry, and he said we were talking about basketball, and he was talking about some college basketball. I said, man, I don't watch college basketball. I watch NBA players. He looked at me like I was crazy. Like you need to start paying attention to some college basketball. And I never forget, my dad dropped me off and I went down to watch the Far West Classic, and it was UCLA playing. And I
Mhm.
kept track of the stats. And Marcus Johnson was playing and dropped 37. And I remember thinking to
Yeah.
myself, damn, these boys is
I believe
balling.
it. I
So I kind
believe
of
it.
started becoming a college basketball fan at the Far West Classic,
Mhm.
watching
Mhm.
that. So it was great to hear you talk about that. A little
Yeah.
bit feel about the because I'm reading the book that you told me to read, right?
Okay.
And called High Contrast,
Mhm.
and a story of basketball, race, politics in Oregon. And man, I'm into that book. I'm 2/3 the way through. I
Man,
mean,
I couldn't put it down, man.
hey man, that book is incredible.
It
And
is.
it's
It is.
educational for me. I think I know a lot about basketball,
But it tells you
especially.
so. It teach you so much more.
Yeah, it teaches you so
Yeah,
much more
stuff that you didn't
about.
know, stuff that you didn't realize you didn't know. You know,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I got more excited about having this conversation with you, and it's interesting you say when you went to Tony's first game, Tony Hopson's first game, who played for the demos, that got you, that ignited a fire in you that
Mhm.
you wanted to play. And when you read the book, you understand clearly,
Yes.
why that squad,
Yes.
and you being not outside the circle, you're in the circle. One
Yes.
of the things I didn't know is that squad, when you think about the Memorial Coliseum, you've had, man, the Jackson Fives perform there.
Oh yeah.
The Blazers have won
Yep.
NBA championship there.
Yep.
Freaking
Temptations.
the Beatles have played there. I'm not talking about
Yes.
the Beatles of the '70s. I'm talking about the Beatles of the '60s. But
60s. Yes.
no event in the history of the Memorial Coliseum has attracted more fans than that
That's right.
game between Jeff versus the Baker Bulldogs. 13-5.
That's right.
13,000. I'm like, man, damn,
Well,
that's a high school game. So just incredible. Probably one of the best high school teams in the history of Oregon basketball. Especially when you read the
yes.
book,
Yes.
you get inside of it,
Man,
right?
the other incredible thing about the Memorial Coliseum and that year when they won the state championship that year, they played Benson at Benson during the regular season.
Yeah.
Beat them at Benson.
Yep.
Beat them by 2 points at Benson,
Yep.
and they for some reason they wouldn't allow the game to be played at Jefferson.
Right.
For Jefferson to get their home game, so they
Yep.
played it at the Memorial Coliseum, a
Yep.
3:15 game at the Memorial Coliseum.
Yep.
6 or 7 thousand people there, man. Six
Yep.
or 7 thousand for an afternoon game, regular season high school game.
Yep. The most
And
that ever
it was
attended a regular
incredible.
the most that ever
Huh?
attended a regular season high school game. I think that's
Right,
the most
right.
at that
It was,
time. I don't know since.
yeah,
But they talked about that in a book. I'm like, the other thing that's more amazing than that is how do you beat Benson at home, right? You're 11-0, 12-0, and the
yeah.
Oregonian ranks you number 2 and not number 1
Right,
in the
right,
state.
right, right,
I'm like,
right.
that's
Yeah.
crazy to me. How are we ranked number
Well,
2?
they put them behind. They put Benson number 1 because Jefferson lost to Washington that last game of the regular season.
No, but I'm talking
That's
about
why they put them.
before they had lost. Before
Yeah.
Jeff had lost, it was like they were a 12-0 or something like that. And
Really?
they had
Oh yeah, they
already
had them
beat
ranked. They had them. Yeah, yeah,
they
yep,
had
yep. You're
Benson
right.
ranked
Yep,
ahead of them
yep,
when Jeff was
yep.
already so it was crazy. I mean, that was a
Yeah.
crazy
Well, I
time.
mean, for kind of good reason though, man. I mean, they had just won the state championship the year before, and they had this kid called Richard Washington,
Yeah,
and this
yeah,
kid was dominant, man. He
yeah,
dominated the game, man. He
yeah.
dominated the game. He was a killer.
No.
He was
Richard
a
was a
killer.
legend, but I don't care. If I beat you at home, I
Well,
beat you at
man,
home. I'm 12-0. I should be ranked number one.
well, well. I mean, other stuff play into that too. I mean, back in that day.
Yeah,
I mean, we playing against 7 on the court. I'm playing. I mean, sure, it
yeah,
was us
yeah,
against them the whole time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway,
The whole time.
that
You
was
know.
crazy. So now you
Yeah.
got to make a decision, right, to go to high school, right? And I know that you're thinking about, you know, going to Grant. You really want to go to Grant, right? But you make the decision, right, to go to Jeff. I think you 3 blocks away from Jeff, right? So now you at Jeff. What was your high school experience like? Going to Jefferson. Now you there. You saw Tony play when you was in the 3rd or 4th grade. Now you actually playing for the Jefferson Democrats. What was that experience like for you?
Well, first of all, let me say there was never any doubt that I was going to Jefferson. Every sibling, every one of my siblings before me went to Jefferson. There wasn't no doubt. And yeah, you're right. I only
Oh
live right
yeah,
around the
yeah.
corner from it, so it wasn't
Okay.
no doubt. But it was, man, it was prideful.
Uh-huh.
That I remember the first day I walked into the school as a freshman.
Yeah,
I felt so much pride.
yeah,
I mean, my heart just filled up with pride, man. I was like, I'm really a freshman at Jefferson High School. I couldn't believe it.
yeah.
I'm telling you the truth, man. I could not believe it. I was finally there.
Uh-huh.
I was finally there,
Right.
and but it was an eye-opening experience because not only was I there, all the best kids from around the neighborhood was there.
Yeah.
All the best players. It wasn't like I was just playing against kids from or playing with kids from beach school. Now I'm playing from all the kids from all the surrounding schools. They at Jeff.
Right.
Now I got to start all over again as far as pecking order as far as ball.
Right. Right. Right.
and
No,
and
yeah.
and that was a humbling experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was a humbling experience, and we can talk about that too.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a minute, right? Because when you were growing up, right, who was that
hmm
kid that was I mean, were you already that guy going in the Jeff
I
in
was
your
I
sophomore
was
year?
that guy at my school.
Yeah.
I was that guy at my school. I was
Okay.
that guy on my block.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but
Right.
man, we had dudes. We had dudes, man. Chris Channel was one of the coolest dudes growing up that I ever seen, but he had some dudes with him. Chris Channel, Jerry Avery,
Yeah.
Daryl Mays,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
this dude named dang, what's his name? We used to call him Black Jack, about Black Jesus. Um, Dang, I can't remember what his name was, but this dude was cold too. I can't remember what his
Uh-huh.
name was. And we had some other dudes too, man. I mean,
Right.
so it wasn't easy, man. I looked up to these dudes, man. I mean, they were the same grade as me, but these dudes was cold.
Right.
I mean, man, they were nice. They were
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
real nice.
Man.
I mean, they was
Incredible.
like, man.
So I
So I
remember
can't. There was a couple.
but
What's that?
Chris didn't go to Jeff. Daryl didn't go to Jeff.
No, they didn't go to Jeff.
No.
They didn't go to Jeff. But these are the dudes that that I felt like I was gonna have to compete against if I was gonna be one of the best. I was the best at my school at coming out of beach. I was the best in my school. But then when I go to Jefferson, no, Chris didn't go to Jeff. Jerry didn't go to Jeff. But there's a whole bunch of other dudes that went to Jeff that was tough as well. That
Right.
was real good. You
Right.
know, and and they all, I mean, shit, man. I mean, they all right there at Jeff. I mean, shit, instead of just going against the kids at your own school, now you got to go against kids from every school. I mean, it seemed
Right.
like it
Right.
was. I mean, you
Yeah,
went
yeah,
through
yeah.
it at Grant. You
Yeah,
know,
the
that
pool
first
got a
year,
lot
man. I
bigger
mean,
than
shit.
just the pool got a lot
Nah,
bigger than just Mississippi Street, right? You got
yes, got a lot bigger. Got a lot
you,
bigger.
you got a lot bigger.
Yeah, it
So
got a lot bigger.
let's talk a little bit about before we get into that. You know, you mentioned one of the guys, right? Jerry Avery. So what was it about Jerry? Because I think you and Jerry were the same grade. I think Jerry maybe be 3 or 4 years
Same
older than
grade.
me. What was it that was he a prodigy during that time, or what was it about Jerry that that you saw that was incredible?
He was a prodigy. He was a prodigy. He was, man. The thing about him, even though he was my age,
Hmm.
it was like he was 5 or 6 years older than me. I mean, he was that much better than me. You know, I mean, he was just as good as my brother Tony and his brother Howard. He was just as good as those guys. You know, at in the 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, he was just as good as those guys.
In the 6th, 7th
When
grade.
we go to the gym, we would go to the gym like in the summertime. We would go to the gym, and we would have all the young kids on one side of the court working on stuff, working on basic fundamentals, and then we have the other older people on the other side of the court, you know, working on more advanced stuff. This dude is working on the stuff with them. He in the 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. He's working with them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Man, I mean, that's how much better he was than all of us. I mean, at that age,
yeah,
he was
yeah,
incredible, man.
yeah.
The
That's what I
dude,
hear.
man, he was
Go
yeah,
ahead.
he was unbelievable. He was unbelievable. I mean, he could pass the ball, he could think the game, he could shoot. You know, he can drill. I mean, everything,
Yeah,
everything was advanced.
yeah.
Everything was advanced.
Yeah, I heard his game was really accelerated, right? So matter of fact, I was talking to now. Keep in mind, I never saw Jerry Avery play a regulation game, but
No,
I probably heard over 200 stories from guys who talked about Jerry. If you're from Portland, especially if you're from Northeast Portland, if you haven't heard about him and you're a ball player, you're going to hear about him.
yeah,
But somebody's going to talk about Jerry in that circle because I heard a guy, Donald Dixon, who just called me yesterday. I heard him describe Jerry Avery as when you watched him, it was like watching somebody have an out of body experience, right?
hmm,
Somebody that was having meaning that you could, when you dream and you can kind of control your own dream, those
yeah,
rare times
yeah,
where you can do whatever you want. That's what he saw in Jerry
hmm,
Avery. And I've never heard a basketball player described like that, especially a guard.
yeah,
And you got to consider the source of where it was coming from. It wasn't like Dixon was younger than Jerry. Dixon's like
right,
7 or 8 years.
exactly. Way
He had
older.
already played
Yeah,
college basketball,
right,
right? He had
right.
played at U of P. So this is
Yeah,
somebody and he was from Oakland. So this is
exactly. So
somebody
he's
who had
seen it.
seen, he'd
Yes,
seen it. And I'm like,
yes,
what did you just say? No,
yes.
man, I'm telling you, watching him was like watching somebody have an out of body experience on the court. He was
Yeah,
that great.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that. To me, man, I always describe him as like he would have been Isaiah Thomas,
Yeah,
Detroit Isaiah Thomas,
yeah,
before Isaiah Thomas. He was
yeah,
that good. He
yeah.
was as good as Isaiah Thomas. When if I was to place him like after as good as I knew, as good as he got as an 8th grader,
Yeah.
place him. If I could place him, as an adult without all the problems that he had as an adult,
Hmm.
I think he would have been just as good or as good as any professional basketball player that ever came out of Portland or ever played basketball.
Yeah.
I
Hey
think he'd
man.
have been that good.
Hey
I think he'd
man.
have been that
I hear
good.
the
I think he'd have
stories.
been one of the all-time great players if he could have kept himself straight. I mean, he went to Benson his freshman year, and I think his freshman year was when things started going off the tracks for him. But
Yeah.
during his freshman year, he was starting on varsity as a freshman.
Which was
As a
unheard of
freshman,
back then. That was unheard of.
unheard of.
Yeah.
It's unheard of just to be
Yeah.
on varsity as a freshman. You
Yeah.
know, he's
Yeah.
starting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
Incredible. Incredible.
first person I ever known in Streets and Smith. I ain't never known nobody from Portland to ever be in Streets and Smith but him. Up until that point. Up until those days.
Jerry Avery, man.
He was
This.
ranked as one of the top players in the country at
Yeah.
his age group, maybe like the top 10 or something
Yeah.
in the country.
Yeah.
And that's coming out of Portland. If he'd have been, somewhere else, like in California, New
Or
York,
New York.
somewhere, he'd have
Yeah.
probably been number one.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, he got that coming out of Portland,
Yeah. What is
man.
somebody who comes from? Let me ask you this question before we get going on other stuff. Is what is somebody who? Because Portland, you don't think of Portland as a basketball mecca. If you're from
Right.
L.A., from New York, from Chicago, whatever, you come to Portland. What do guys find out who end up coming to Portland from a large city and they come to Irving Park, or they go down to Jeff and play on a Saturday, what do they end up
Well, one
finding
thing
out
they
that they
find,
did? Huh?
I just know the one thing they find out, we got ballers here.
Yeah.
We got ballers. And we got all the guards that you can even imagine. We got guards.
Right.
Yeah, we got
Right.
guards. We
Right.
got players.
Yeah. Yeah.
Portland has some players, man. I mean, I never heard nobody ever leave here and say that they was disappointed in the players in Portland.
Right.
I never heard nobody come here to visit and say, oh, that ain't nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
they got to hand it to them every time they can.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
I
No
know.
doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Them
so
dudes that used to come down, them dudes used to come down from Seattle, and we used to hoop with them dudes.
uh-huh.
Yeah, we used to give them business.
Yeah, they find out what the real
Shoot,
deal
man.
is. So
Yeah.
you're a Jeff, right? Sophomore. Are you on varsity your sophomore year?
No, no,
Okay.
no.
All right.
That's a long story.
Okay.
That's a long
Okay.
story.
So
Yeah.
what happened between your sophomore and your junior year?
Well, let's start with my freshman year.
Okay. All
My
right.
freshman year, my freshman year, I was like the 12th man on a 13-man team.
Okay.
I only made the team. I only made the team because my last name was Hopson, and my brother had just recently played at Jefferson, and they won the state championship. That's the
Okay.
only reason I made. I tell you, man. I mean, when I came to Jefferson from Beach School, where I was the king at Beach, and I came to Jefferson. Man,
Yeah.
it was starting all over again. It was starting from the bottom,
Right.
man. I was like the 12th man
Right.
on a 13-man roster. Never played.
Right.
Never. But let me say this: I was only like 5'8" at that time.
Okay.
I was like 5'8". Didn't have good handle. I
Uh-huh.
could shoot the ball, but I didn't really have good handle. But I felt like I was good enough to
Uh-huh.
play. But obviously the coach didn't. But between my freshman
Right.
between my freshman year and my sophomore year, I grew like 6 inches.
Yeah.
So I went from like 5'8" to like 6'2"
Hmm.
between my freshman year and my sophomore year.
Okay.
So my sophomore year, and this is kind of a strange story. My sophomore year, Bub Harris was a JV coach
Okay.
at the time. Bub Harris was a JV coach at the time. He still wasn't giving me no run. I
Uh,
wasn't getting no run. I'm 6'2" now. I know I'm just good as anybody on the team,
right.
and I'm still not getting any run really. Um, it was a switch up in the coaches. Bob Osborne, who was the varsity coach at that time, he resigned during preseason.
Hmm.
Bub Harris moved up to varsity,
Hmm.
and and um now his name is, I'm losing his name. The coach, my brother's coach, the varsity coach that coached my brother's team to the state championship.
Okay.
I can't think of his name. I can't
Bicho?
think of
Bicho?
Bicho. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, not Bicho, not Bicho. Bicho was the assistant coach.
Okay.
But anyway, the coach that actually coached that team, I can't believe I can't think of his name right now.
Uh-huh.
But he stepped in and became the JV coach when Bub went up to varsity.
Got it.
All right, so and I was on JV, and I wasn't getting no run. So the first day in practice, first day he come to practice, we shooting around and everything, and he coming around introducing himself to the players and everything, and we Jack Pertel, Jack
Okay.
Pertel.
Yeah.
He introducing himself to the players, and we introduced ourselves to him and everything. We just kind of shooting around, and he come over to me and he asked me what my name was because he hadn't even seen the team play or anything. He hadn't even
Mhm.
seen us play. He didn't know none of the players. At least he act like he didn't.
Right.
And so he come and he's talking to me and he says, "Well, what's your name?" And I say, "My name is Phil Hopson." And he says, "Oh, what? Your brother's name is Tony?"
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, that's my older brother." And he said, "So how's the season going?" I said, "Well, it's all right, but I don't really get that much time. I ain't really been playing that much." He said, "Well, let me get you out here. Let me see what you're doing, and I can guarantee you, you're gonna get some time. You're gonna
Right.
get some time."
Right.
So from that point on, I played. I got a chance to play, and I ended up being the most valuable player on my JV team that year. Ended up being the most valuable player on that team that year. Then
Right.
varsity year, the next year, my junior year, Bub was the coach again. Was my
Uh-huh.
coach again, and this team, we was loaded with seniors. You
Yeah.
know, we had the Ransoms, we had Virgil
Yeah, I remember the
Allen,
Ransom
we
Boys.
had
Yep. Virgil. Yep.
Rideau, Charles Rideau,
Yep.
Brian Hughes. I mean, we was loaded,
Hmm.
loaded, man. I mean, first, second, third ranked team in the state all year long, all
Hmm.
season long. I mean, we were loaded. And
Hmm.
I was the only junior in the starting lineup. We had
Right.
four. You know, I was the only junior in the starting lineup, and at that point, there, I knew, you know, that I was, I was pretty good. You know,
Right.
at that point, and I was kind of just kind of waiting my turn behind the seniors. You know,
Uh
really.
huh.
You know, I mean, I was letting them have their turn. You
Right.
know, because I knew, I pretty much knew at that point that I was better than those guys. You
Right.
know, it
Right.
was just, just wasn't my turn. And
Okay.
but I got into the starting lineup, in preseason, and it was a good year for me. And that
Okay.
was the beginning of everything as far as varsity goes and everything.
So you knew as a junior, you was that guy, right?
I knew, yes,
Were you 6'4"?
without a
Were
doubt
you
in my
six?
mind,
Were you
without a doubt
six?
in my mind. And I used to tell my buddy Reggie, man, I used to tell him, man, I could be the best player on this team right now. And he used to just laugh at me, but I used to tell him, I said, man, I could be the best player on this team right now.
Right.
My junior year, I could be the best player. I
Yeah.
said, I'm just gonna let these guys just have their turn though. But next year, it's gonna be my team.
Right. Right.
And that's kind of the way it went. But
That's int-
the junior year, my junior year, we had a good team that year. We, like I said, we was ranked high all year long, first, second, third, all year long. But we lost to the same team like three times that year.
right.
Park Rose
Yeah.
lost to Park Rose 3 times. Like, lost them in preseason, lost to them in the Mount Hood tournament, Christmas tournament, and then we lost them in the semifinals of the state tournament.
Uh huh.
And
Yeah.
same team 3 times in a row. We only lost 5 games that year, and
Wow.
three of them was
Wow.
to those guys.
Yeah, I remember that
3 of them was to
squad, the
them.
Ransom twins, right?
The
And
Ransoms twins, yeah, we had a nice squad.
yeah, you guys had
The
a nice,
Ransom
definitely had a
twins,
nice squad.
Brian Hughes,
Uh huh.
um, Charles Rideau, Virgil Allen.
Yep.
We had
Yep.
a nice squad. We had a nice squad.
So you end up.
They had some other guys off the bench that was pretty nice as well.
So you guys
Yep.
end up your senior year. You have another. You have a really good year as well, and you end up making All State that year, right? So you
Yeah.
first team All State, right?
Hmm.
One of the top 5 players in the state of Oregon, obviously at that time. So you were at the pinnacle of your high school career. But now the recruiting process, right? So what was the recruiting process like for you? You're all state, you're one of the top teams, obviously in the state. And Jeff,
Well,
what was it? What was it?
the
What was the recruiting process like for you?
it was kind of dicey. I wasn't getting a whole lot of looks. I
Uh huh.
averaged 25 and 12 my senior year,
Uh huh.
but that was my only year that I really really did anything. 'Cause my junior year, I
Right.
didn't. Nobody was noticing me my junior year.
Right.
So
Right.
my senior year is the only time I ever got a chance to get out there and be seen really.
Uh
So I
huh.
didn't get a whole bunch of looks. I got a lot of letters, whole
Yeah.
bunch of letters, but nobody really serious.
Okay.
Until the end, until after the state tournament, um, and it came down between Idaho and Texas El Paso with Don Haskins.
Oh, so Don
So
recruited you.
Don recruited me. Yep, I could have
Okay.
either could have went there or Idaho, and then Cal Santa Barbara came in late. It came in right after I signed at Idaho. They called the next day telling about they wanted to sign me, but I think that
Okay.
was because they didn't get some of the recruits that they wanted. And then
Right.
here I am, the next person on the list. But
Right.
yeah, but
What?
Idaho, I mean, they stuck with me the whole time. Once they started recruiting me, they was right there with me. Texas El Paso, they were pretty strong as well. The only thing I didn't like about Texas El Paso is that it was just I didn't want to go that far away from home at the time. I didn't want to go
Okay.
all the way to Texas,
Okay.
and this was the key thing, man, to go to Idaho. I knew on the schedule, and for the next year, it said Far West Classic.
Oh, okay. That was a good.
It said
Because I was going
Far
to
West
ask you
Classic.
what. I was going to ask you why. Because
Yes,
it
man, that was the main reason
yeah.
that I chose to go there because it
Right.
said that my the next season that they was going to be in the forwards class. Washington State was supposed to be in it, and they had dropped out, and they let Idaho come in as a substitute team for them because they weren't going to play that year.
Right.
So yeah, that was the main reason that I chose there. Other than the fact that I went there on my visit, and I watched a video of their games And I'm like, man, these dudes, man, I can come here and play my freshman year, start my freshman year. I'm like, man, I went there to Texas. I was gonna have a whole bunch more competition if I went to Texas El Paso. You know,
Yeah,
they had some juniors, sophomores and juniors that would have been ahead of me.
yeah.
You know, that I thought, hey, these dudes probably, I mean, they older than me, they probably gonna get more time than me. But at Idaho, I was like, man, I know I can play in my freshman year if I come here.
Okay,
I can
okay.
play my freshman year. I can play all 4 years.
So did you figure?
So
Did you figure that out on your own, or
yes.
was somebody counseling you in terms of, hey, look, I think
Well,
if you,
my brother was
okay,
helping me through it,
okay,
as well. But he actually wanted me to go to Texas El Paso because they, basketball wise,
yeah,
they just won. Don Haskell just won a national championship, in '66.
yeah,
So
yep,
that was still fresh,
yeah,
and wasn't that far from then.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Nate
so he
Archibald
kind of
went
wanted me to
there.
go there,
Yeah,
and I wanted to go to Idaho because, hey, shit, if I was classic, it's closer to home. I can come home every once in a while, I know when I go there, I'm gonna play,
hmm.
So that was the reasons.
So
Those are the reasons.
you kept the main thing that
Yeah,
when you went to the Far West Classic in the fourth, fifth grade, you kind
man,
of said, hey man, this is where I want to be.
that's
And
what I
when you
want to
saw
do.
the schedule that Idaho could play in the Far West Classic, you said, done deal.
Done
I'm
deal.
I'm
Done
going to
deal.
Far West.
Man, this even made it. This even brought it more to home, more closer to home. My coach Don Munson, who was recruiting me at Idaho, he had just coached at Michigan State the year prior to that. My junior year in high school,
Yeah, with Judd
he was
Heathcote.
coaching at Michigan
Yeah,
State,
yeah.
assistant coach at Michigan State. Michigan State was in the Far West Classic, at that year at my senior year. You
Uh-huh.
know, not the year that he coached, but the year after he coached, they came to the Far West Classic. So I mean, I thought it was all a connection. I'm like, man, Far West Classic. He know Magic Johnson. He coached at Michigan State. They're in the Far West Classic. I mean, this is all a connection. I'm supposed to go to Idaho.
Yeah.
I'm going to be
Yeah.
in the far. If I, just felt like it was a connection, man. I mean, I felt
Yeah.
like it was meant to be.
Yeah, yeah,
I felt
yeah.
like it
I
was
was going to
meant to
ask.
be.
So one of the toughest. Let me ask you. So one of the toughest transitions, right, that you make if you're playing basketball is going from high school to college, right? I mean, because the physicality changes. Especially if it's at a D1 level.
Mm-hmm.
You got classes. In some cases you may be getting your ass kicked in practice. So and you were the
In every
guy
case.
in high school, right? You got the scrapbook, you all
Mm-hmm.
state, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the transition for you, it seemed to be relatively smooth, right? Was that transition smooth for you going from playing high school to playing D1 ball in Moscow, Idaho for the University of Idaho Vandals?
Um, it was smooth to the point where I knew that I could succeed there.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to have success.
Okay.
So I never really worried about anything once I got on campus. I knew I was
Okay.
going to be taken care of. I knew I could play there. The only part that I really, and don't laugh at this, man, because I did go to Jefferson. So the only part I didn't wasn't prepared for was
Yeah.
academics.
Yeah.
I wasn't
That's
really ready for that, man.
yeah.
Going from high school academics to college. I mean, it was a whole different thing as far as studying and learning, getting study habits, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
taking school serious.
Yeah.
That was something new for me. You
Yeah,
know,
that's
so
that's a big. And hey man, it's not just the athletic piece, right? When you make that transition to play
exactly,
at a
exactly.
D1
Yeah,
level.
and that was the most
Yeah.
difficult part for me
Yeah.
is the academic and just getting serious about school.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
not that I couldn't handle it.
Uh-huh.
It's just making it a priority and getting serious about it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the main thing.
Right.
As far as on the court, I felt like I was as good as anybody. First day I stepped on the court, I
Yeah.
felt like I was good as anybody there. Even though I mean, they brought junior college players in or whatever. I feel like I could hang. The only
Yeah.
thing was, like you say, the physicality. They were. I did feel that. They were a lot stronger.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't playing against no kids no more. I mean, these was grown men.
Right.
So
Right.
I felt that difference.
Right.
And
But there was
but you could. I felt myself adjusting to that real fast, though. I
right.
mean, once I realized what it was, I felt like I made that adjustment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I remember because you think about it, right? one of the questions I have for you is that, when you look at that program, 8 years in a row they had losing records.
Mm-hmm.
Before you got there, they were 4-22.
Exactly.
Matter of fact, they were on recruiting violations. They had recruiting violations, so
Yeah.
they were cheating,
Yeah.
and still it was the
Still
results.
losing.
The results
Still
weren't
couldn't
there.
get no recruits. Yeah.
So what was different about? I mean, I know it probably got you time to get a little bit settled in, but you start talking about Munson, right? And he's got this whole thing where his whole strategy was, I'm recruiting Northwest kids, right? I
Mm-hmm.
want to recruit kids from the
That's
Northwest.
right.
So you had Brian Kellerman, who I think was from
Richland, Washington.
yeah, Washington, and then you had
Mm-hmm.
Kelvin Smith, right?
Pasco, Washington.
Yeah, Pasco, Washington. Then you had Kenny Owens, who was from New
Yep.
York, but he
Yep.
went to Prairie View, played
Yes.
for Treasure Valley, right, in Oregon,
Treasure Valley. Yep.
junior college. And then you
Mm-hmm.
had Gordy Herbert, who was from British
Yep.
Columbia, and then you had
Yep.
yourself, who was from Portland, Oregon.
Yep.
So it's this is probably, without question. And I played in the Big Sky too at Montana State, but in my opinion, this is probably the best starting five and the best college program, and from a dynasty standpoint, in the history of the 60-year plus history of the Big Sky. So what was different about Don from one year to the next? I mean, you guys, they were 4-22 the year before, and your first year they're 17-10. So,
well, for one thing, John Munson, he didn't recruit those players, most of those players, before we got there.
right,
Before me and Brian and my class with Brian, we were the first class that he recruited.
right,
So all those other players, they were already there. But he
right.
had one dog. He had one dog that was there, and this guy's name was Don Newman. And I don't know if you ever heard of this guy, man, but he was a three sport athlete. Played football, basketball, and baseball. And
Okay.
he was recruited. He was drafted by the Indiana Pacers after his junior year. He played 5 years. So after back in those days, I mean, he didn't play 5 years, but he went to college for 5 years.
Yeah.
And back in those days, after your fourth year, if you had another year to go, you can be drafted.
Okay.
Remember, you can like Larry Bird was to Boston. Boston drafted him a year before he graduated.
Right. Right.
Right.
Okay. Got
So
it.
they did. Boston actually did the same thing with this kid that played on our team, Don Newman.
Okay.
Drafted him a year before he graduated.
Okay.
But he went back into the draft his senior year, and then he was drafted by the Indiana Pacers, and he didn't make the team, but he went on to play international ball. He played in the CBA back in those days, and then
Okay.
became a coach in the NBA. He was like
Okay.
an assistant coach in the NBA for like 15 or 20 years.
Wow. Wow.
And then he recently passed away. But he was the main thing that drove us, because when we got to Idaho, he just needed some people with him. He just needed some players with him, because he was, man, this dude could play.
So he set the tone. He set the tone. He set the tone.
Yeah, he set the tone. He set the tone. And our first year there, his senior year, he was player of the year in the Big Sky. He was player of the year in the Big Sky.
Wow. Okay.
And he led us to that 17-10 record our first year there. That dude was tough, man. He was good. And I don't know if you remember a guy that played at Oregon by the name of Ron Lee. You remember Ron Lee?
Of
that
course.
Played for Oregon?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. He was exactly like him. Looked like him, played like him, everything. A dog like him, everything, just like him. Left-handed, just like him, everything, man. You would think that they were brothers.
Okay.
They were so much alike.
Okay.
They played so much alike and act so much alike, man.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he had no fear.
No fear. Dog.
Right.
Dog. All you need is somebody with him.
Right.
And then Brian came along, and then, and then we had some other, we got it rolling.
So you guys come back.
After he left, that was his senior year, and after he left, Kenny came in.
Yeah.
And man, come on. I mean, that was a whole nother story.
Yeah.
You're talking about a different type of dog right there. I mean, that's a different dog. I mean,
He
at basketball wise, he was even way better than Don Newman. You know, but Don Newman was just that competitor. He just had that competitiveness in it. So both of them did, but both, man. I mean, Idaho had some incredible guards back in the day. They had this dude Don Newman, and they had Kenny Owens and Brian Kellerman. All three of them were player of the year in the Big Sky, back to back to back.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you complete your first year, right? You guys go. You have success right off the bat. Don has success right off the bat. That whole crew. You coming into your sophomore year, right? I think you guys finished that year. You were like, I think you were 20-4,
26-4.
26-4 that year. And then that year, did you guys play in the Far West Classic that year?
No, we played in a tournament called the all college tournament in Oklahoma, in
Okay.
Norman, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reality is that um when I'm thinking about it, one of the things that's amazing about this team is you guys dominated the Pac-12. I mean, we're talking about, and I want to paint a picture here because I think it's easier today to probably a Big Sky school or what you call a mid-major to compete against the Pac-12 than it was then because you had
Hmm.
no AAU program, right?
Right. Right.
So, and you probably didn't have as many kids playing as they're playing today, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
so the first time that you see a player who's a top 100 kid, you won't see him till game time.
Hmm.
AAU, you can see a kid 4 or 5 times during the
Exactly.
summer. So
Yep.
you
Get
had you
get to
you
be
got a
friends
chance
with
to
them.
adjust to that talent level. You guys beat Pac-12 teams 11 or 12 times over your career. To me, this is amazing. I'm talking about
Hmm.
Washington State, Oregon State. They weren't in the Pac-12, but you also gave it to Gonzaga. This is a
Yeah.
Big Sky team. I want
Hmm.
people to listen to this to understand that this hadn't happened before, and it hasn't happened since in terms of your domination. So I want to get into this Far West Classic thing because it's you coming into the years at 81, 82. This is a
Hmm.
historic year for you guys,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You guys win 16 straight off the top,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? What
We're
was that?
rolling.
What was that like?
Man, we were rolling, man. We were rolling. We felt like we were
Yeah.
like one of the best teams in the country. We really did, man. I mean, it was an incredible experience because we took over the Palouse. The Palouse is that area of University of Idaho, Washington State, Gonzaga, Spokane area,
Yeah.
all that is
Yeah.
they call it the Palouse area.
Yeah.
I mean, we ruled the Palouse, man. We ruled the Palouse. I mean, everything happened. I know we went from having like 500 fans to a game to having like
So many.
11,000 fans, man. Like overnight,
Right.
overnight. I mean, it's like our first game our sophomore year. First game our sophomore year, I think we had like 3,000 fans.
Right.
Our second game, our sophomore year, we had 9,000 fans, man, and it
Yeah.
never stopped after that. The rest of the time we were there,
Yeah.
it was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a rock band.
Right.
It was good, man. I mean, it's like it was nice.
Yeah, and you end up being ranked, and this is for the audience too, because this is incredible. It hasn't happened before, hasn't happened since. I don't think it's happened before, but you were ranked in the top 10 in the country. This is a national, 16-0,
Yeah,
nationally ranked team out of the Big Sky, man. This
yeah,
is the Big Sky Conference we're talking about. Then you got to go to the Far West Classic, right?
uh-huh.
So you're making, so now what you thought about in the fourth grade, what you envisioned, what your goal was, now has become the destiny, right? Now,
Yes,
the name of the team is the University of Idaho Vandals. And when you think about the definition
Vandals.
of Vandals, that means I'm destroying all property that's not mine. So you actually are
That's right.
coming back to Portland where you were not
That's
recruited
right.
by Oregon or Oregon State. You got Oregon, you got Oregon
That's right.
State, you got all these teams in the tournament. What was payback on your mind? I mean, or what was your mindset coming back to Portland and having the opportunity to play in those Far West Classic tournaments?
First of all, the first thing that I felt like it was just pride. Pride. I remember our first game, or we were preparing for our first game, and we was at our pregame dinner or something. No, not the pregame meeting. Right? I don't know, a couple of days before the game or something. But the coach asked us how many tickets do we want. Uh, he asked each player how many tickets they want to give out for the
Right.
games. So each player they go around that. Well, one player say, "Well, two," one, another player, maybe three, and he gets around to me. I'm like 30. I need 30
Yeah.
tickets. I know everybody want to come. I know
Right.
everybody come.
Right.
He's like, "Boy, are you crazy, Hopson? Have you lost your mind? I'm giving you 30 tickets. You can get tickets from your teammates or whatever, but we're not giving you 30 tickets."
Right.
But man, in my heart, man, I felt like everybody wanted to come watch me play at the Forward Classic, man. I want to give out tickets to everybody. I want everybody to come, man.
Yeah.
I felt so much pride. I had
Yeah.
finally made it there, man.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
finally made it. I was in the Forward Classic, something I had dreamed of all my life.
Yeah.
All my life I had dreamed of being in that thing, man.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, let
And
me tell you
but
that.
it was a rude awakening that our first year there. My freshman year.
Yeah.
My freshman year, we played Oregon State the first game, and they beat us by like 39 points, man.
But that was with Radford and Bloom and those
That was
boys, wasn't
Radford, Bloom,
it? Yeah. Yeah.
Johnson,
Yeah.
Steve
Yeah.
Johnson, all them. Yeah, they were ranked #1 in the state.
Yeah.
I mean,
In
the
the
country.
country.
They were ranked, so they were supposed to pound us, but they beat us like 39 or something points or something.
Yeah.
But the next year when we came back, not my sophomore year, but my junior year when we came back,
Yeah. Exactly.
that was the year, and we beat them by like 39 points in the Far West Classic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kicked in.
Yeah. 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 Y'all
So
punished
that
them.
man, that was prideful. I mean,
Yeah.
that made me feel good to beat them like that, man. The freshman year we beat Oregon. I mean, we beat we did well in the Far West Class. We lost to Oregon State, but then we won the next two games to take the consolation championship.
Uh-huh.
So we did well. You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
at junior year, man, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
I,
we just destroyed that thing.
well, I
We
can tell you
destroyed it
this from
junior
my
year and the senior year.
I can tell you this from my perspective, right? As a youngin' at that time, I might have been 15 or 14, right? Or at that time is that, you know, I remember the first time seeing you come back when you were with the Vandals at Irving Park.
Mhm.
And you had the black, you was wearing the black practice gear. You had the black shorts, you had the black Vandal tank
Yeah.
top on. You had the fro, playing on the north end court,
Hmm.
outside as you come up to Irving Park off of
Yep.
Fremont. And I'm thinking, damn, this dude. I think you guys had played. You were on TV. You got played in an NCAA tournament that year before. I think you
Hmm.
lost to Pittsburgh, and then
Yeah.
you was at
Yeah.
you was at the park. I'm like, say, man, this dude is playing Division I basketball, the NCAA tournament. It
Hmm.
kind of put the Big Sky on the map if you were from Oregon, right?
Yeah.
Looking and you aspired to play college basketball, and then having the opportunity to go to the Far West Classic. And
Hmm.
I want to paint a picture from everybody listening is that when you went to that game, it wasn't like it was 6 or 7,000 people there. It was like 12,000,
Right.
12,2 that were there. And the
Yes.
Idaho
Yes.
Vandals who were invading, they were
Hmm.
invading Oregon, right? You had 3 Northwest guys who played in the
That's right.
Northwest, either in junior college or high school, who were on that team. And
Hmm.
you were invading and destroying the state of Oregon because
That's right.
Oregon lost to you, Oregon State lost to you. Those 2 years in a row, you guys
Yeah.
dominated. I mean, I'm sure if you're the head coach for Oregon or Oregon State at the time, you had to be looking at your assistant coaches and go, how do we miss some of these players?
Hmm.
Because they were all in the Northwest. Now they have
Yeah.
come back to haunt us. And
Yeah.
I had a sense of pride of knowing that somebody
Hmm.
that I knew who went to Jeff, who I could see at
Hmm.
Irving Park, was on a
Yep.
national stage, ranked number 8 in the country, giving it to Pac-12 teams in the
That's
Far
right.
West Classic, which was
Yeah.
probably, we're not talking about the Maui Classic, everybody thinks about now, Bahama Classic,
Right.
but
Right.
during that time, the Far West Classic was it.
It was it. That was it. That
It
was
was
it.
it.
The Forest Classic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, shout
Yeah.
out. So that year was a magical year, Phil, and you guys go on to dominate. You win the Far West Classic, but then you end up finishing in the year ranked number 8 in the country, right?
6 in the country.
6 in the country. Oh, 6 in the country. Okay,
6 in the country.
6
Yep.
in the country. And then you guys end up um, getting to the Sweet 16, a Big Sky team in the
Hmm.
Sweet 16. Matter of fact, it wasn't easy because I think you guys had to face Iowa
Hmm.
against a legendary coach, Lute Olson,
Hopson.
right?
Yep. Yep.
in that turn, and I think you won on the last second shot by Kellerman,
Exactly.
I
In
believe,
overtime.
in overtime,
In
right?
overtime. Yep.
And quick story to that is I remember I think the year before you guys had played Pittsburgh, you had an opportunity to win in the last second, and I think it was for Kellerman to get the J up, and they doubled him, he passed it. But before he went out, Munson called the play for you guys to go up against Iowa for the last second shot. He told Kellerman, "Hey, don't pass it. Just make sure you
Don't
get it
pass
up.
it this time. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
don't pass
Yep.
it."
Yeah.
Yeah,
To add to that story, the Pittsburgh game, it was the exact same situation. Exact same situation.
yeah.
Only thing different was we lost in the end in the Pittsburgh game, and we won at Iowa. But the Pittsburgh game, Brian was sick. He was kind of sick that game, and 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 they double teamed and everything. He didn't take the shot. He threw the ball out to me. I took the
Okay,
shot.
okay,
I took the shot. I missed the shot. You know,
okay.
and you know what? I always felt like, man, I feel like I had a decent career there. But
Yeah.
if I would have made that shot right there, man, I would have felt like, you know, when Michael Jordan made that.
Oh
Michael
yeah,
Jordan made
yeah,
the shot for the national championship.
yeah,
When he hit that shot,
yeah,
it was the same spot. It was the
yeah,
same spot I had missed from.
yeah,
Man, it's the same exact spot, except for the other side of the court.
yeah,
Man, and I
yeah.
always, to this day, man, I always felt like, man, if I would have made that shot, things would have been different. Things would have been different, man. Things would have been different.
Uh,
They weren't bad, but things would have been
no, they
different.
weren't bad because you guys
They
came
weren't
back the
bad.
next year and you made it to the Sweet 16. So
Yep,
it
yep,
what it
yep,
what it wasn't that
yep.
bad. So
We,
when you guys ended up beating Iowa, right?
uh-huh.
Now you getting ready to face Oregon State. You already crushed them in the Far
Again,
West Classic. I think this is you
yes,
got AC Green, right? You got Lester Connor, that
right,
whole crew. They were ranked
yep,
as well. But man,
uh-huh.
you got a chance to make it to the final eight against a team you just beat by 18 or 20 in the Far West Classic.
Yeah.
But I heard they decided to take the air out of the ball.
Man, yeah, because Ralph Miller, that was the way he played anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, he would take the air of the ball anyway.
right.
But yeah, they got up by 6 points or something early in the game, and they just took the air out the ball the rest of the time. They just worked the ball around. But part of it was our fault because we were known for our zone defense,
Yeah,
and for some stupid reason, we never we extended it, out and everything, but we never really came out of it or went into any real traps or anything to make them pass the ball or make them shoot the ball or anything. I don't know why we didn't do that, but looking back, man, we just never forced them to get rid of the ball or shoot the ball, and they passed the ball around for the whole game pretty much. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
and back then, of course, they didn't have no 35-second clock or 24-second clock or nothing like that back then. So you can just hold the ball forever. And they were scared of that little Big Sky team. Because we had already kicked their ass. They were scared of us, so they held the ball the whole time.
yeah, yeah. For good
uh,
reason.
we always felt like if we would have played somebody else different, man, that we could have made it to the Elite Eight.
Yeah,
But
I think Kellerman was talking about that. Hey, man, I don't think Kellerman was a big talker on the court, but I think he said, "Hey, man, come on, guys, let's play." He was telling Oregon State, "Let's
yeah,
play, man.
yeah, exactly.
Stop
Yeah.
trying to stall it out, right?"
Yeah, just play ball, play ball. We
Yeah, yeah,
yelling
because
at them, man. Matter of fact, there's 22,000 fans up there yelling at them, man. Play ball,
yeah, yeah,
22,000
yeah,
fans,
yeah.
play ball. We ain't coming here to watch you guys pass the ball around,
Right,
you know?
right, right, right. So too bad we didn't have a shot clock right then, right? That'd have
Exactly. It would have been a
been
different
a
story.
different story.
It would have
But
been a much different story.
even with that said, right? They in Oregon State wins that game. They end up going on. They end up because who was behind that waiting for you guys would have been Georgetown, right?
Georgetown,
So and that was the
Georgetown.
Hoya. That was the height of Hoya paranoia,
That
right?
was when Patrick was the
Yeah,
freshman.
yeah. It was a
Yeah, that's
freshman.
when it all really get started. They
Yeah,
had Sleepy Floyd already.
yeah,
He was a senior that year. But
yeah.
Patrick came along, man. I mean, that's when it really started. Yep,
Yeah, yeah.
yep,
I would have really loved to see that matchup because Owens would have
man.
not been scared. I mean, I know you wouldn't have
No,
been scared, and
no, we
obviously
wouldn't have been
Kel.
scared.
Yeah,
We wouldn't have been scared. We
yeah,
wouldn't have been scared, man. We would
yeah,
have accepted that challenge, man. We would, man. Matter of fact, we was probably kind of looking ahead to them, really,
right,
because we had already beat Oregon State by so many points. We felt like we could beat them,
right,
We going in, we felt real confident about beating Oregon State,
right,
you know.
right,
And we was like, man, we're gonna get to play against Patrick and Sleepy Floyd in there.
yeah,
We gonna get to play against them. All
yeah,
we gotta do is win this game. We're gonna play against Sleepy Floyd and Patrick Ewing.
Right.
Come on, man.
Right. Right. That was
George
huge.
Thompson, come on, man. And we all the years before, I mean, shit, ESPN had just started,
Yeah.
and the Big East was pretty much the only basketball conference that was on ESPN in like 79, 80, I mean, all
Yeah.
their games were on, so you're
Yeah.
always watching Patrick Ewing and Sleepy Floyd and Georgetown and them, man.
Right. Right.
And we was
No,
gonna
that's
get
a
a
true.
chance to play them. Man, we was excited, but we didn't get that far.
Man,
We
that's
didn't make it.
incredible. I one of the things that um that I want to ask you about, right? Because that team went on the next year. You guys end up making the NIT, so every year you were playing and playing for something.
Mhm.
And then you end up getting drafted by the Blazers, right?
Yep.
That year. Matter of fact, your team had. There's only been 80 players drafted in the 60+ year history of the Big Sky Conference. You had three from your starting lineup. So you
Wow.
had you had Kellerman, you had
Mm.
Owens, and you had yourself. What was that
Wow.
experience like getting drafted, having an opportunity to really, get at, I call it a pyramid. The basketball journey is a pyramid. You
Pyramid,
talk
yeah.
about back at beach, you got
Mhm.
everybody who's playing at the bottom of the
Yep.
pyramid. And
Exactly.
the more you move up, high school,
Yep.
college,
Yep.
it gets less and less people get a chance to play. And the tip of that
Exactly.
is the
Yep.
NBA. So you go to camp. What was that experience like for you?
I was in camp with Clyde Drexler. That was
Okay.
his rookie year.
Uh-huh.
Um, it was man, it was competitive. It was
Yeah.
competitive, but it was good.
Uh-huh.
It was the only thing I knew that coming in that I wasn't going to have an opportunity to make the team.
Right.
I knew it wasn't. The only person that they kept it was Clyde Drexler that was drafted that year. Because they
Yeah.
had a full roster. I mean, the team was good that year. They had
Yeah.
Michael Thompson, Jim Paxson. I mean, they had a loaded team.
Yeah.
You know, um, so the only thing I just knew I wasn't going to make the team. Um, but I think I did well in camp. It was a
Yeah.
great experience. But
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't make it, so it
Yeah.
was like, yeah,
But you got the opportunity to play, not only continue to play beyond that, you went and played overseas for a number of
yeah,
years. So you
yeah.
got
Went and played overseas. I played overseas for like 5 years. That was
uh-huh.
a great experience. See the world, play ball, make some money.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
nice. It was
Yeah.
nice, but I mean, again, I mean, everybody's dream is to make the league. Is to make the
Yeah.
NBA, and I always feel that I fell short of that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you were one of the one percenters, right? I mean, there's only 1% of high
yeah,
school players that ever play at a D1 level,
that's true.
but also the other piece is to be on to be on probably no question a historic college program in the
Yeah,
University of
no
Vandals.
question. I will always cherish all those moments, man. I
Yeah.
mean, that's embedded in my heart, in my mind, and I was watching old videos of our games a couple of weeks ago and stuff. That
Uh-huh.
stuff, man. Yeah, man, it was a
Watching
great experience.
that whole journey, man. Well, man, hey, man, Phil,
Yeah,
I just got one more question for you, Phil, as we get ready to wrap this up. And when you talk about your career, and this is called the Run It Back podcast, right? Is there anything in your career that you wish you could run it back? Either do it again or have another opportunity at it or get your get back on. If there's anything, what would that be and why?
um, I don't know. I wish that I could. I mean, just like a lot of people, I wish I could do it all again, knowing
Uh-huh.
what I know now.
Okay. Right.
Just knowing what I know now.
Right.
If I can put what I know now into effect back then, I think I could have. I would have been a lot better basketball player. Been a lot better student. Would have been a lot better person.
Uh-huh.
If I could have did that.
Yeah.
But as far as man, man, the one thing probably is that after I got cut from the Trailblazers, I just lost my desire to want to do it again. Try for another NBA team, and I
Okay.
never tried again. And I wish I would have. I
Okay.
wish I would have. I wish I would have tried out for it because I had the opportunity to try out for the Golden State Warriors
Okay.
one year, and because of family situation, because of things that was going on, because I didn't feel like I could make the team, and
Right.
I didn't even go. I didn't even
Yeah.
go for the with the tryout
Yeah.
and nothing. And looking back, man, I wish I would have changed some of those things. I wish I would have had more dog in me. I didn't have enough dog in me, man.
Uh-huh.
I didn't have enough dog when I think back.
Uh-huh.
You
To
know?
run it back again on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that your game was probably a little bit before its time. Um, because when I think about your game, I mean, you were, 6'6", maybe 200, 195. So you kind of like the
Mm-hmm.
perfect basketball physique. But when
Mm-hmm.
you were playing, right, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, you averaged 12, 13 a game over your career. Um, but offensively, there were probably things that you could do that you weren't necessarily allowed to do because you were in
Okay.
that system,
Yep.
right?
Okay. Yep.
So,
Yep.
so this is just my opinion. You can tell me if I'm
You're
wrong.
right. You're right on point. You're right on point.
So you were really kind of a stretch, a
Mm-hmm.
stretch hooper, meaning, long, athletic, but you could shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
At least the field that I knew growing up playing with it, playing pro am basketball once we got out of college. And I don't think that part of the game was necessarily explored because you guys were so talented, you didn't have to,
Right. Right.
but
Right.
you
Right.
kind of get
And
put in the box a little bit.
exactly, put in the box. You
Yeah,
know, and I'm glad you brought that up because that is something
yeah,
that I wish
yeah,
that I wish I could change back in those days. Now, I mean, I think what happened with me, and I think what happened with the bunch of our players on our team, we just we got into that system.
yeah.
We got in that system, and it worked.
Right,
It worked. I mean, we were winning, you know.
right,
So we didn't want to break the system, and everybody wanted to be loyal to the system and do what they do their part. You know
right,
that made this well-oiled machine work as
right,
well as it did. You know,
right.
and so I mean, I was in the top. I was what second in the nation in field goal percentage
Yep,
my junior year,
yep.
but I only shot 10 times a game, eight or 10 times a game. You
Right,
know, I mean,
right.
I could have shot 15 times a game and still shot 50% from the
Yep,
field. You know,
yep,
but
yep.
I didn't want to break every. It worked. What we was doing was working. So I didn't want to step out the system. I was loyal to it, and looking back, I feel like now I was too loyal. I was too loyal to the system. I
Yeah,
think all of our guys were because I think all of us were better than what we were there at Idaho. But as a team, as a unit, we
yeah,
played the best as a unit.
yeah,
And we at least we felt we did.
yeah.
We felt
Mission
like we was better as a
accomplished.
unit than we were as individuals.
Yeah, mission accomplished because the
Yeah.
reality is, and I'm sure Munson didn't do this, but if he would have set you guys in a room, in a locker room before the first practice and said, guys, before it's all said and done, we will be ranked number 6 in the country. We'll be to the NCAA tournament twice. We'll make it to the Sweet 16. 3 of you will be drafted. Y'all would have looked at him like he was crazy. I mean,
Kind of, man, kind of. But let
yeah,
me tell you this story. Let me tell you this. Our freshman year, my freshman year, Brian Kellum and I, we're sitting by each other in the locker room, and the coach is going through his pre-game stuff or pre
yeah,
season stuff, talking about what he expect out of the season. He think that we can be top in the Big Sky and everything, and he says that but I don't expect us to win the national championship.
yeah.
And me and Brian, we looked at each other like he was crazy. We like, man, what? I mean, we can't win a national championship. You know,
Oh, so
we
you were already thinking
we
that.
thought, I mean, that's what we come for to win.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm
That's what we come
sorry.
for to win. I mean, why we got to reach for the highest star?
Okay.
I mean, why? I mean, come here and you're gonna tell us that we can't win a championship? I had never heard anything like that before from a coach. All my coaches like, man, we getting ready to win this thing. We getting ready to win the state, and we didn't have the talent. The coach always, we getting ready to win.
Yeah.
We gonna win. But now get there, and he's like, well, I think we can win. We can come in the top in the Big Sky. They second, third. Weber is really good. They're ranked. They're going to be ranked this year, and that kind of stuff. And I think we can compete, but I know we can't win a national championship. I'm like, what are you
Right.
talking about? I
Yeah.
think we can win a national championship.
Right. So you
That was
guys.
my mindset. Mine and Brian's coming in. Like, man, that we come to win.
Yeah.
We come to
Okay.
win. So,
So
but
you got.
but that was before the game started.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Now once the season started, and then we knew, what the competition was like, and we knew that, we just can't come in there and,
Yeah.
dominate things. And I mean, it's going to take some building. It's going to take some,
Right.
it's going to take way more than what we got in order to
Right.
win any games.
Yeah.
But it was just a shock to me
Yeah.
personally. I mean, coming from Jeff, I
Yeah.
mean, he's school of champions, man. We talking about winning championships, you know. We talking about winning championships,
So you already
And he's
had
talking
that.
about we ain't gonna win,
You already had
That
that
was a stunner to
mindset.
me.
You already had
Yeah,
that
yeah,
mindset.
because I never really, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what we
Yeah.
came there for, man. I mean, to
Yeah.
win.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, even if we knew we couldn't win, I mean, the coach saying, you can't win the championship." I mean,
Yeah. What are you
that
talking
was just
about?
a stunner, man. I mean, just the coach saying,
Yeah.
"You guys can't. I don't even expect to win. The
Yeah.
championship. I don't even expect.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I'm
I mean,
sure
hey,
Don used a little bit of reverse psychology, was just
yeah.
challenging
I
y'all.
guess that's what he was trying to do. Yeah.
Well, Phil, man, it's been a pleasure, man, to spend some time with you,
All
to
right,
go
man.
back down memory lane a little bit, and man, learned a lot about your career and growing up, and
Mm.
the School of Champions, and that whole transition of high school to college, and the incredible
Yeah.
career that you had at University of Idaho with the Vandals. So shout out to the whole Vandal fan base and that whole crew. It hasn't been done before, and I don't think it's been done since, right? What you guys
Mm.
accomplished. So pleasure having you, big fella.
All right. Appreciate it, man.
All right.
Appreciate it. All right.